Hello, welcome to this video on how to change the heater matrix core on the P3 chassis XC70, also same as V70 and S60. If you've got one of these cars and your heater is not getting up to temperature, it doesn't feel like it's getting very warm, but the engine is getting up to temperature, the chances are, it's not exclusively this, but the chances are that the heater core matrix is blocked. It's quite common. There are a lot of videos out there about the left-hand drive cars, and there is one other about the right-hand drive car, and that involves removing the entire dashboard, and I shall show you for why now. So just as an overview, if you look down here, just behind my fingers there, that is where the engine coolant passes through the bulkhead and goes to the heater matrix. And to get to the heater matrix, you need to remove the glove box and the tray underneath, which goes there, all screw on. They've got screw points all around. You can see I've already removed this one. And this is what makes the job on a right-hand drive car quite hard, because that there is the heater matrix. There's the pipes that connect coming in from the engine. And that has to be drawn out. But how can you draw it out if there's a dashboard in the way? Well, some would argue that the correct and only way that it should be done is to remove the entire dashboard. But that is a massive job. And on a car that's worth probably £3,500, a garage bill would come pretty close to that for removing the dashboard. And doing the job at home, long and involved. So instead, you can see I've marked it already where the dashboard, where the glove box comes in, and so you won't be able to see them at the cut mark. I'm intending to cut the dashboard here, possibly a little further up depending on how much wiggle room I need, and also cut it here because you won't see that at all, because when the glove box is in, it covers it. This can be then put back in, and we'll either bond a piece of plastic behind it, possibly put some screws in just to keep it nice and rigid. I mean, it's not an actual structural part of the vehicle, so it's not a big deal cutting that. So I'm going to have a closer look now, see if that is going to be the best cut point, or maybe because when this draws out, as you can see the new one here, it has to draw out quite a way. And I'm a little bit concerned that this is going to be an obstruction, so I might have to try to bring it out at a bit of an angle if I can, which might mean I have to cut a bit further back. So I'm going to have a look at that now and cut out the dash. So having cut this piece here, and you'll note I've put a piece of aluminium or steel or whatever you want to do behind there, because there is a wiring loom, and if you go too far you could end up doing quite a lot of damage. So that just stops you from damaging your wiring loom. Looking over here now, I've got a bit of flex in the dashboard. That was my original cut line, and I was going to do that because from there you would not be able to see any cut line at all once the car's back in one piece, once the glove box is in, because that would be hidden. However, if I push, now I've got a bit of flex, I pushed the dashboard up over there, and I was thinking, oh, I could probably just wiggle it out, but actually I still think that this is going to get in the way. And rather than make two cuts and have to do two dashboard repairs, I thought, right, we'll cut it here. It's going to make the job easier, because this box, I think, is going to foul this coming out. To what extent, I don't know. We'll find out later on. So I've made a mark here. I'm not going to cut it whilst holding the phone as well, because that was probably going to make it a mess. So we'll come back to that in a moment. So with this piece now cut, if I remove it, you now see you've got a much better access to the heater matrix core. And looking at it, I think to make the job easier and to aid removing these pins, because these pins hold the two pipes in, I'm going to remove this motor now. I believe this is the motor, in fact I'm pretty certain that this is the motor that controls the heat flap doors, what you call them really, for the passenger side. On these cars, anything to do with the electrics, if you're messing around under here, remove the battery. I removed the battery, disconnected the battery earlier, and has been said in other videos, and I'll put a link to, I can't remember his name, but there's another chap who does an excellent video on doing this with removing the dashboard, and he's very fastidious. Before you move the battery, you've got electric seats, put the seats all the way back. I've already done that, and I've already disconnected the battery. So I'm going to disconnect this motor and remove this motor, so I've got a better, clearer view to what's going on here. So there we go, motor removed. It's just there's two screws with a Torx style head and one locator lug pin there. On the back, the motor just drives into this connector here, which just pulls off very carefully. And now you'll see that all we're left to do here is remove these two pins. Now, before doing that, and I have already done this, I have disconnected the two pipes, the coolant pipes that lead into the matrix. They're on two clips. They are here, and you just push them to the side, squeeze them to the side. They are quite stiff. And turn the pipes and pull them off. Don't bend from side to side, because you will end up doing some damage here. You'll lose some coolant. That's okay, because we're going to top it up afterwards. Before removing these clips, it's a very good idea to get a bin bag, open it up and put it in the passenger footwell. You're going to lose some water out of there, and even more so when we actually draw the matrix out, and you don't really want it going into the carpet. So create a little pool using a bin bag. Always going to be handy. Now, removing the clips, I've removed the top one. Here it is. Well, it did fit in there. I don't know if you can see that very well. Not best working practice, but they are quite stiff. So to remove it, you can see there's that little lug there. On the top one, I put a screwdriver in the lug and gently, using this pipe as a leverage, pulled it out. Don't go mad, don't use too much force. You do not want to damage these pipes. This one's a bit more awkward because it hasn't really got anywhere to lever on. So I just got an offcut of a piece of wood. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this and hold the phone, but we'll give it a try. Put the piece of wood across the pipe so it's spreading the load, and gently lever out. It doesn't want to come very well. Okay, might have to rethink that. Let's have another look. And there's the reason it wasn't easy to take out. So as you can see, the clip comes out as far as the lug to which the that motor removed earlier screws into and stops. So we're going to have to undo that screw and start to bring out the heater matrix to avoid that lug. Now, I don't know how easy these pipes are going to move, so I'm going to try it and then come back. Okay, success. So as I thought, I had to undo that screw for the heater matrix, draw the matrix out a bit, and then using a screwdriver, you can probably see the scratch marks I've put in here, leave it on there, tease this out. Now, it shouldn't be too hard. You do need to be careful. The clips are made of aluminium, and as you can see, ever so slightly bent that one out of shape in the process. So I'm going to have to carefully remake that into shape before putting it back in. But that is what was stopping it. Now, the pipes then wiggle and jiggle and come out. But as you can see, there's not much movement to allow them to fully get out of the way, because I need to draw this all the way out. So I'm off to fathom that out. It's probably going to mean, and I'm not saying it definitely is going to mean, but it's probably going to mean undoing, if you can see down here, that bolt there and another one on top, so that these have got more play and more movement. Okay, so I appreciate we've skipped a bit here. I'm not going to kid you, that was awkward. The problem being is that these pipes only have a limited amount of movement in them, and you don't want to force them, because these are the pipes that are moulded and go through the dashboard, go through the bulkhead and into the engine bay. And if you damage these, then I honestly think, yes, you have to remove the dashboard to replace them. I cannot see another way that that would work. So how did I get this out? Well, not without a bit of damage. Thankfully, no damage to the actual cores. So as you can see, there is a core there, there, so on and so forth. I don't believe there is a core at the bottom, but in a moment I'm going to slice this in two to see how bad it is inside, and you'll see. This pipe at the back, sorry, we'll start with this one. This one at the back managed to tuck down and out of the way and draw the unit out, and it took down, that pipe just took down just behind here. This one, a lot more awkward. I managed to just get it and sit it over where the motor that we removed earlier for the heat flaps, I managed to put it over there and then tease this out. It does hit here, so you do have to pull it around, and that's how we've ended up with a bit of damage there. The fun part is obviously going to get a new one back in. It's going to get damaged. As long as we don't damage the actual heater cores, so you end up leaking, then it's okay. That's the next step. Right, here's the new one in position, ready to go in. And as you can see straight away, this pipe being as far over as we can get it is causing some damage to the new unit. It's only the fins that it's damaging, and at the back I've put a piece of plastic to help it slip past the pipe at the back. I'm thinking maybe I need to do that for the one at the front as well. Okay, it's in. I ended up not using the plastic or a piece of cardboard. I thought a piece of cardboard down this side would help protect the fins from this pipe. Actually, it just made it so thick it wouldn't go in, it all snagged up. So it is literally a case of this pipe being on there, that pipe being tucked as far to the side as you can, that you just tease it in. Yes, the fins get damaged, unfortunately. They just get bent over. There's not really any way that I can see that you can do it without that happening, but it is now sitting home. I can now replace these rubber O-rings because a new kit came with this one. This is a Nissan's unit. Looks to me to be part number 73641, and it's come with new rings, so I'm going to replace those rings, put these pipes in and start putting everything back together. Okay, I've got the pipes back in and the clips are in. A little tip: if you remember, when we were removing this clip, it was stopping and being jammed by this piece here, meaning that we had to pull the core out a little bit to be able to pull the pin out. Now, when you pull the core out, this pipe doesn't sit flat properly, so you can't really put the pin back in. But having looked at this one and having looked at the old one, I can't see any reason and any difference that the pin going in this way as opposed to going in this way. So I've put the pin in this way. It all seems good and tight. I've put the top pin in the way it was before. I'm now putting coolant back in the car. I'm going to put this motor back on before I reconnect the battery. I don't know if it'll make a massive difference, but I have had issues on this before with when you disconnect something with the power on, that it throws up various different errors and you have to get VEDA or someone with a tool to reset it. So before I start the engine, and obviously check these for leaks and check that we haven't damaged the core by putting it in for leaks. So before I start the engine, I've obviously got to put these bits back together. So I'll do that now. So there we go, it's all in. Motor is back on, as you can see there. Engine running. It's getting up to temperature. I wouldn't say it's fully up to temperature because the top hose on the engines, I can still touch it. I don't think the thermostat's properly opened yet. We've got no leaks, which is obviously great. These two pipes, both of them are so hot I can't touch them. So we know we've got a good flow of water through. Heat coming out of, let's turn the air conditioning off just so we make sure. Put it to floor level. So if you're down here, that's definitely warmer than it was. It's not blisteringly hot, but then like I say, the engine isn't fully up to temp. So because the top hose is you know, I can still touch it, so I don't think the thermostat's open, so I don't think we're fully there yet. It might be also that I have to plug VEDA in and figure out how to do a recalibration of the climate control system, if such a thing is possible. I've read that it might be, but we'll have to see. Anyway, for now, that's the core changed. Back in, not leaking. Jobs are good in. Okay, so here we are on the road test. Engine temperature is not long set off, so the engine temperature is still sitting just under normal, but only just one segment under normal. But the cab is warm. I'm getting heat out of the vents, so I think it's fairly safe to say that the original, sorry, just watching out for traffic, that the original heater matrix was definitely locking up. And when I get back from this run, I'm going to slice it open and have a look. So here we have it, all back together, all working okay. I've not plugged VEDA in yet, I shall do that later. I just wanted to show you the dashboard where I cut it. Just there, barely noticeable. Even when you look down the side. I think definitely a bit more of a realistic option than removing the entire dashboard, unless you particularly want to, or unless you want to pay a large garage bill. Now, the original heater core, what does it look like? I did slice it open, and actually, it doesn't look that bad. Quite why I haven't got the water flow through there, I don't know, unless it's at either end. I did cut the end off, that's a bit of sawdust in there, that obviously wasn't in there. But everything looks, obviously the bits of sawdust that's come off my saw, but it doesn't look too bad, so I don't know. Notable though that the Nissan unit that's gone in has got larger bore holes in, so maybe that's just inside, they're third up to the point where we can't really see it. But there we go, job done.